Hello, everybody. Welcome. My name is Bennett Tchaikovsky, and welcome to Ask the Accounting Professor. That would be me, or one of many accounting professors, but at least here on YouTube, that's what I am. The question that came in today is I've completed my undergraduate education. When I come back and become a CPA, what steps should I go through and take? So, my disclaimer and copyright notice, the information and opinions in this presentation are those of myself and not my employers or affiliated organizations, including but not limited to Irvine Valley College and the South Orange County Community College District. The presentation is for educational purposes only and does not constitute any legal or accounting advice whatsoever. This presentation is copyright 2024 by Bennett Tchaikovsky. All rights are reserved. Any distribution is strictly prohibited. So today's question, I got a great question. This actually came from a student that reached out to me, and they already have their degree from a 4-year university. And the student writes, in order for me to get an entry-level accounting job, I need to find an internship. However, in order to get an internship, I need to be actively enrolled in college, which I'm not right now. Should I rewrite my resume and update my LinkedIn profile? So let's kind of unpack this a little bit at a time. So the first thing that I would say that you should be doing, I basically as a basically steps. The first thing you're going to want to do is assess where you are with regards to the educational requirements in the state where you want to work. Now, what do I mean by this? Well, in California, we have to have a bachelor's degree as of right now, as of June 30th, 2024. We have to have a bachelor's degree plus 30 semester units to become licensed. However, you can sit for the exam with 24 semester units of accounting, 24 semester units of business subjects. If you want me to assess where you are with regards to your units, you can email me at ivc30 to cpa@gmail.com. What I will do is I will create a Google Sheet, right? You send me your email, or you basically email me at this address. I'm going to reply back with a Google Sheet. I'm going to say, list out every single class you have ever taken that appears on an undergraduate, graduate, community college. If AP courses were taken in high school, those count, right, in California. So list out everything. And I mean everything. So that will be the first step. And the reason why that step is so important to do, and I'll just kind of go through over here, is because when an employer looks at you, right, what they need to know is that, well, you're going to work for an accounting firm, right? And we're talking really specifically about accounting firms. What they want to know, and this also applies to anybody if you're in your undergraduate studies, is where are you with regards to the 150 semester units? Why is that so important? It is because when you start at an accounting firm, most firms generally want you to have basically the 150, or actually I should say at least the one being able to sit for the exam, becoming licensed. It depends on the firm. If you're going to go work for a Deloitte or a PricewaterhouseCoopers, Ernst & Young, KPMG, they want you to have all of the 150 completed, right? However, some accounting firms are okay with you being basically with you not having all 150, but at least having the 120. Now, when it comes, because it's kind of also too, they're going to be they know that you're going to be serious about working in accounting, right? You should be able to at least sit for the CPA exam. So when you do a resume, right, you're going to want to go through and make sure you have this information about not only when are you going to be CPA eligible, but when are you going to meet the 150 semester unit requirement. These are sample resumes that I have. Okay. These are sample resumes that I have. if you are taking a class at Irvine Valley College or at Saddleback College. One of the things I've created is I've created IVC 30 to CPA. What is IVC 30 to CPA? Let's just take a moment. So what IVC 30 to CPA is it's basically this. One of the things that I've tried to do essentially for our students at Irvine Valley is that I've been very, very fortunate to have amazing students that I have been pushing accounting for the last 10 years. And so some of that labor, or actually all that labor, is kind of coming to fruition. So what I did like last fall and last spring is I went through and I basically held basically what I would call the pre-meet the firms. And what exactly are these? So when you look at my YouTube channel, you're not going to see everything that I have. So this is I basically, God, she's going to kill me right now, but this is the recruiter. Boy, I'm going to have to pause this real quick. Hold on. So this is the recruiter here. This is Brittany Kim from HCBT. She is awesome. Okay, so and during these pre-meet the firms calls, I ask a lot of different questions about how do you recruit? Now, do you have to be, is it ideal to be in an undergraduate major in accounting and to recruit while you're in school? Sure, right? But we're in today's job market, which I hope changes soon. We are in probably in California. We are probably in the roughest job markets I have seen. How do I know that? People are reaching out to me and saying, Bennett, help me get this through. So what I've created over here, basically through the IVC 30 to CPA. So what I've gone through and created is I have a lot of information. And the video that I just showed you, this one, is not available. This is Brittany. This is not available for students that are not a part of IVC 30 to CPA. These are unlisted videos. These are videos I've made with different recruiters. And in the videos, I talk extensively about how to recruit. When you are, if you have a great background, right? So if you went to a great 4-year university, you got your degree, things didn't work out as you would have liked them to. And I have a student who contacted me who graduated from a Haas Business School, Cal Berkeley. The student, I, God, this is crazy. Graduated from Haas, and the employer that she was going to go work for pushed her job back by a year. We're in a rough market. Okay. But what's the shining light is I have helped students. I have introduced students to opportunities. Those students have then taken advantage of those introductions and have obtained employment. How does that happen? Well, if you're intense and if you're going to go back and get those 24 semester units of accounting, 24 semester units of business, you already have your bachelor's degree. That is going to be a huge step forward, right? Now, in terms of access to IVC 30 to CPA, if you are enrolled as an IVC student, I can add you easily to this module with either a Saddleback or an ivc.edu email address. Has to be in South Orange County Community College District. But one of the things I do is, like, for example, this is Fraser LLP. This is an accounting firm that goes through, they're right over here in Orange County. They're hosting an open house. Here's a link to the open house. That's going to be a way you can go through and meet firms. Now, with Fraser, I have placed several students there. And I don't want to say place because, like, look, if I make an introduction, I can make a stronger introduction if the person took me for accounting. right? If someone suffered through one of my accounting classes, the least I can do is to help them get a job, and it's going to be a stronger introduction. But that doesn't mean that you can't join IBC 30 to CPA and go through and on your own meet these different firms and going through and getting a job and getting yourself in front of people. Um, Over here, this is an Eide Bailly, another accounting firm, with going through and getting the links. These are my office hours at Irvine Valley. These are also available publicly on my website. And then over here, right, one of the things, this is where I would, as I mentioned to you, I will create your own individualized Google Sheet, right? Send me over an email, say, Bennett, send me the Google Sheet. You will go through and fill out, you'll list out all the classes, very easy to do. Once you do that, you email me back and say, okay, I'm ready to have my classes sorted. I'll see either Hogwarts, excuse me, well, it's not Hogwarts. It's either going to be Gryffindor, Slytherin, Hufflepuff, or Ravenclaw. I'm just kidding, right? I'm either going to say it's like, okay, this is how many more units you need, and so on and so on, right? So going over here, if you have your degree outside of the United States, I have specific instructions for that. And then coming down over here, these are more surveys and discussions. These are the pre-Meet the Firms meetings. I'm also doing these for fall 2024. I have, I think, about 11 accounting firms signed up. Hopefully, I'm going to have a little bit more. That's going to happen the first 2 weeks in September. I call it pre-Meet the Firms. And even though it's like not specific, like if you're a student at IBC, you cannot walk into Cal State Fullerton Meet the Firms, right? Why is that? Well, you're not a student there, right? I can't walk in to Meet the Firms at UCI because I'm not a student there. However, these Zoom calls, if you're an IBC student, this is going to give you access to accounting firms that you may not already have. And I have, I think, upwards of about 17 recordings of 1 hour meetings, like I did with Brittany from HCVT, their recruiter, where you can go through and watch me interview them, right? And I can't make those videos public, but they're unlisted. But if you're part of IBC 30 to CPA, you'll have access to those. This is also talking about the work experience requirement. Basically, how does that work? Sample resumes. So the resumes I'm showing you right over here, right? These sample resumes, which are great to go through and use. You can find the links to those over here on IBC 30 to CPA. I also have a lot of articles, right? Interview questions and preparing for interviews, decorum in the interview process, how to recruit. Coming over here, I wrote a series of articles for what was then Rogers CPA Review. It's now UWorld, but they took those and created ebooks out of them, which will walk you through basically those steps. Over here, scholarships, right? You can have, if you want to get a master's in a professional accountancy, Deloitte offers a full academic scholarship to UCI, top 10 public university, good stuff. I know that also, I think Deloitte also offers the same for Cal State Fullerton. RSM scholarships, different scholarships over here. Information about how to go through with Ernst & Young. This is a little bit dated, but I'll try to go through and update that over here. Over here for Robert Half, this is full-time and part-time opportunities. How do you go through and apply for those? How to get the most out of your accounting education. And then basically this is more about transferring to a 4-year university. This is actually pretty old, but it's actually still pretty relatively relevant. So this is IBC 30 to CPA. Now, why did I spend the time in terms of going through and doing this, right? Is that you have your degree. First step is going to be is assess where you are with regards to the educational requirements where you want to work. Then I would say 2 is start to get the 24 accounting units, 24 semester units or 24 business units completed so that you are eligible to sit for the CPA exam, right? So you want to basically get those accounting units and business units done. Then I would say is that you want to be simultaneous to two, you want to be updating your resume, because on your resume, if you can say you can sit, that's going to be a great way to go. Now, also, I would kind of say here, and to begin to target firms that you want to work for, right? So Haskell and White, RSM. If you want to work for a big four accounting firm and you've already graduated from school, that's going to be a little bit more complicated. Not going to be impossible, but generally the big four firms, they recruit students while they're in school. However, if you know somebody, right? One of my former students, she's amazing. She was working for Lexus doing marketing. She decided to pivot back into accounting, and she met somebody, I think either at the gym or someplace outside, started talking to that person because she is an amazing salesperson, and got a job offer from Ernst and Young. So it can happen, right? But you have to kind of put yourself in that position. And by the way, she's like calling me up as like, dude, you got to help me with the 150. It's like, hey, no problem. This is what you need to go through and do. So I would say that these would be the first three steps. I would say four is figure out or determine or essentially get yourself prepared for interviewing. One of the other things I would also say too is, as far as this process goes, one of the skills that you really need to have is Microsoft Excel is going to be a must. And I would also say other platforms like Alteryx. There's other ones, but those skills in terms of what I have heard from recruiters, those can also really, really help you. Now, we're not talking about for this particular student, you really aren't looking at an internship. An accounting internship, at least in my definition, right, is something where you're in a 4-year program and it's something you're doing the semester before you graduate. Or basically, I do a summer internship, say summer 24, I'm going to graduate in spring of 25 to start going through and working. This is really for someone who is at the undergraduate level or maybe graduate level. But this is an internship is really going to be while you're in school. If an employer is using the word internship, that's probably another term for saying less money. However, the big four internships, they pay close to about $40 an hour or $80,000 per year. So it's not bad. And what I would say is this: for this particular student, I would be enrolling in the classes that you need to be. And it doesn't have, by the way, can it be from any school? Yes, right? If you went, though, to a university that is not highly regarded academically, right? So if I went to, I'm not trying to diss on Shamu, right? So, okay. Basically, let's see over here. Cal State Monterey Bay. Okay, so let's take a look at this. 2024 rankings, 402 in nursing, 6 and top level. What's that? Wow. Okay. What's this one? These look like all state universities. Okay. So, but again, if you went to a school that is not really that well known, right? So if I went to a smaller, maybe even like an online university, that might create an issue because when it comes to recruiting, if you have an undergraduate degree from UCLA, from Cal State Fullerton, from Cal State Long Beach, from UCI, those are going to be, because when an employer sees those schools, they're very well known. If I went to an online university for my 4-year degree, that's okay. It's just going to take you more work, right? And I would probably say is that if you did go to a 4-year online university, um, I would probably say to you, start passing parts of the CPA exam, because when you meet a recruiter, they're going to know that you're very, very serious. Because if you've passed the CPA exam, they have people that are working there that have not yet passed that test. So, yeah. So let's go back to this though. So there's really no internship. Rather, what I would be doing is I would be contacting Robert Half once I've taken Microsoft Excel, once I feel very comfortable about my financial accounting education, right? Get to have a good accounting base and get part-time work. That would be absolutely acceptable to go through and to do. And, how else can I get a job? Well, if you go and if you're going to come to IVC 30 to CPA, if you come to IVC in our district and you say, hey, how can I get a job? I will absolutely help you. I can't guarantee you that you get a job. If somebody says that, they are lying. Okay. I can basically put together Zoom calls and I can basically say, hey, this is up to you to go through and to make this happen, because there's not a lot I can do. For example, I can't go through and teach you basic etiquette on interviews, right? If you go out for a dinner with a firm that they want to take you out to dinner to interview you, and you start pounding down vodka tonics, that's probably not going to work out. And if it does work out, that's probably going to get you in some pretty big trouble later on down the line. So going through the steps, right? I would try to find a part-time accounting job, right? And do I need to be actively enrolled in college? The answer is absolutely not, but you need to have at least the ability to sit for the exam. Should I rewrite my resume and update my LinkedIn profile? I don't really know. I think I would leave your 4-year university on there. You can say that you're taking classes at Irvine Valley or anywhere else, but I really probably wouldn't go through and really dramatically change anything you've gone through and done. You have your bachelor's degree. That's awesome. But you really just need to go through and to basically go through and take accounting units. So that's kind of, and again, there's no correct answer basically for any of this. There's really going to be no right answer. However, there are steps you can take, right? Figure out if you want to if you want to work for an accounting firm, figure out where you are in California or anywhere else with regards to the 150. Take the classes so you can at least sit for the CPA exam. Uh, Update your resume to make sure you're showing the employer where you are. I would also make a recommendation as well, is that when you are going, and this actually happened to one of my students a while back, and my student, she sent out 150 resumes, got received no response. That is probably the biggest and greatest mistake you can make. LinkedIn, right, is the one social media account which I personally believe has the most useful purpose. Why does it have the most useful purpose? Because, for example, I have over 2,000 connections. Do I talk to those connections all of the time? No way, I can't. However, if a student tells me they want me to introduce them to somebody, I am more than happy to do so, if it makes sense. Right. There was a student the other day. She said, well, introduce me to these three people. And I introduced them to one of them because one of them was by far the most relevant. But again, use LinkedIn. Do not send a resume in blindly if you can avoid it. Have somebody present your resume. When a student comes to me, they say they want me to present their resume to an employer. I'm generally happy to do it, but they must have suffered through my accounting classes. That's really what I'm kind of looking for. And why is that so important? Well, it's because if I've personally tested them or I've gone through and I've made the student perform work for me that I've then evaluated, that can at least give me a stronger basis on which to recommend a student. The other thing I would also again tell you is that what else is going to make you stand out to an employer? Taking and passing parts of the CPA exam. If you think about it, right? And students oftentimes will ask me this is like, well, the student actually contacted me the other day and they said, I'm going to get a master's degree. And I said, well, do you need to work? I said, yeah. I go, I don't think that's a very good idea. So the student ended up, the student is now, I mapped out their units. The student is going to go through the community college. It's probably going to cost them about $1,500 in courses they need to take at a community college, which is about $46 per unit. And then after that, they're going to basically sit for the exam. One of the things I can do for you, if you're a subscriber to the channel, and hold on. If you are a subscriber to the channel, and if I go over here to UWorld CPA review pricing, let's just see what the deals are right now over here. CPA products, CL courses. Okay, I can get you this for about $500 off. At least I still think I can. I think she would give me that pricing. So if you want this class from UWorld for $19.99, I don't know if I can still do it, but if you send me over an email, I will make the introduction. So it's about 20% off an already discounted price. And this will basically go through and give you a discount. Now, by the way, when you're using CPA review, make sure you take a trial, right? Do not, and I'm being very adamant about this, do not buy a CPA review product based on price. You have to go through and try and buy. I would definitely go through and try and buy Becker. I would try UWorld, which is formerly Rogers CPA Review. I'm not pushing UWorld for without reason. Peter Olinto, who is one of Becker's top instructors, is now full-time at UWorld. He is an amazing instructor. If you watch any of his content, it's absolutely fantastic. And in fact, he is so fantastic that Becker is still using his stuff. So, and he's been gone from there for almost a year now. So if that says anything to you, that says anything. So again, when you look at this, don't like, and it's just like anything else, right? Don't believe me, right? Believe in yourself, talk to people, right? Go and talk to people because, you don't want to just take one person's word for it. You really want to go out and basically see what is going to be best for you, like what is going to make the most amount of sense for you as a student, right? Don't listen to anybody. And I'm very, very serious about that because, again, somebody in a master's program may say, oh my goodness, we'll get you a job. And by the way, like if you go to UCI and get a master's in Deloitte, gives you a scholarship, well, Deloitte's going to give you a full-time job offer at the end of it. That's what they did for one of my students. But that's a full-time program. And is a pretty exceptional student who had some pretty great, amazing work experience. So hopefully this helps the student that I created this for. And hopefully this can actually help other students as well. But again, if you have questions, feel free to email me at ivc30tocpa@gmail.com. If you want me to help you with your mapping or you have any other questions, if you are an IVC or Saddleback student, part of the South Orange County Community College District, you can send me once you're enrolled, you're taking classes, and you want to become a part of IVC 30 to CPA. You can go through and send me an email to either this address or my ivc.edu address. You can find me on basically if you type in Bennett Tchaikovsky, Irvine Valley College, not going to be a hard play. I'm not a hard person to find. You go there and contact me and say, hey, Bennett, add me to this group. No problem. And again, it's really going to be up to you what way you choose to go, but by no means you've earned your 4-year degree. Don't take it away from your resume. But you have to get the units in order to go through and sit. One little final anecdote, the firms really, in most cases, which I've observed, as long as you know your debits and credits, they're generally going to be okay. For example, I've had several students from Cal Berkeley work for large accounting firms. They were not accounting majors at Cal Berkeley, but they went to one of the number, depending on what poll you look at, number 1 or number 2 public university in the country, and the firms wanted them to work for them. Where did they take the classes? Oh, they went to California community colleges to take the classes. Why? It's $46 a unit, right? It's one of the biggest benefits about being a California resident is our California community college system. And if you look at any of the California Board of Accountancy materials, one of the first things they're going to go through and say is that the units can be completed anywhere, including at California community colleges. So hopefully this was helpful for you and for my student who messaged me. I look forward to seeing you on future videos. Have a great day and looking forward to seeing you soon. If you have questions or like to see future videos, feel free to leave comments below. Have a great day.